The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon to everybody. My name is Jojo Hidakan from IATA here in Geneva. There's a question box on the right hand side of your screen. Will you please confirm that you can hear me? Hi, good morning, good afternoon to everybody. Will you please confirm that you can hear me by typing on the question box? Perfect. Thank you so much. We will start the session in 7 minutes, so please bear with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jojo. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Passenger Rejection Memo Reduction Initiative webinar. Um, this is the second one which we are doing today. We had a very good response in the first one, and judging by the numbers I see still logging in, it's really an important topic, and we can understand why everyone wants to be part of it. Because whoever has worked on passenger interline billings at some point of time has had to work on rejections or correspondences. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Kirk Pereira. I've been nearly 19 years in this industry. My first 12 years have been working in various roles in passenger revenue accounting. I then joined IATA in 2011 in the Montreal office as part of the SIS operations team. And now I look after operational strategy and standardization of invoicing and billing processes across IATA's operational teams. In my new role, I'm currently based in the IATA Madrid office. a few things just about the presentation. If in case you have any questions, please feel free to log them in the chat box. You have a chat box on the right hand side of your screen. Note that all questions will only be answered at the end of the presentation. In the event that we go over time and or we are not able to answer some of the questions, then what we will do is we will personally reply to each question by email. And also in this, along with the slide deck, we will also put a list of questions and answers which have been answered in the morning session and this session, and send it to everyone who has participated. This presentation is also being recorded, and part of the slide deck, you will also get the link. So in case you would like to share this within your teams, then you can also share the recording of this webinar with your teams. And finally, before I start, the goal of this presentation is to try and cover what we do in this initiative, why we do it, who all are involved, how and what actions are being taken, and the duration of this initiative. So it's going to be broken down into 4 parts. The first part we're going to cover is the background of this initiative. What is it about and why is it required? Then we will move into the progress. What progress has been done, who is involved, and how is it being done? We then move into actions. What are the actions we have been taking? What are the actions you have been taking? And at the end, some homework. And it's something we expect you to give back to us and not just be a simple viewer in this initiative, but actually someone who actually interacts with us. So moving to the background, let me explain how we actually started this initiative. So for those of us who have been in this industry over the years, we might remember that we used to bill on a monthly cycle. We then moved to a weekly cycle. We used to send paper invoices, send the IDEC data to ADP Co. We used to issue invoices. Settlement information was done either to the ICH, or we used to send recap sheets to the ACH. We had a lot of issues. We had issues like reconciliation. We used to lose invoices because in the post they used to go missing. And in the end, we realized we needed to do things in a better way. So the idea for digitalization and exchanging of data in a common platform was born. We went live in October 2011 with SIS. We got a lot of benefits out of SIS. And one major benefit was we had a global system where we had the data which we could actually analyze and track. For example, we actually can know how fast airlines are processing now. Do they actually turn around invoices in a week, in 2 weeks, or 2 months? If we want to actually improve validations, we know that if we put in a validation, who are the airlines who are already sending this data today? How many of them will be affected? And based on this, we actually can arrive at certain decisions and at least supply the working groups the rationale about why we should put a change or why we should not put a change. However, an additional benefit was knowing the volume of data exchange in the industry. We now know an accurate number of how many interline transactions actually exist in the industry because we have a global system. But we also realized that we have a problem. We realized there were a lot of rejections and also a lot of bad practices. On an average, in 2015, we realized there was more than 1 million rejection raised per month. So definitely much more than 12 million a year. And in 2015, towards the end of 2015, the IATA Financial Committee, the FinCom, that is made up of the CFOs of the airlines, tasked the IBS Ops working group to reduce unnecessary rejections in the industry. So the IBS Ops working group, that is the Interline Billing and Settlements working group, which looks after the RAM as well as the rules of the industry, discussed this with IATA, and that was the SIS team at the time. And based on the different types of reason codes and what were the reasons, came up with a plan to reduce rejections by 32% over 5 years. So the goal of the project was we need to reduce rejections and cost by improving the quality of interline billings. So we understand that the first thing we needed to understand was rejections will continue to happen, because if you're billed incorrectly, you have no choice to reject. However, what we wanted to be part of this project was that we get the airlines to bill correctly and cut down on unnecessary rejections. So we don't say don't reject. We just say bill correctly. And when you're raising rejections, ensure that you're attaching your proper documentation. You're much more explicit in your rejection reasons, and don't expect to put the same reasons in every stage of the rejection and expect it to be better. So who's involved in this initiative? The entire industry, because without you, we cannot get anything done. It is not just a few airlines, but everyone who actually contributes to this. So it's very important that all of us are totally involved in this initiative. Otherwise, we will not get the rejections reduction that we actually want to achieve. Who's leading this from the working group side? So we have the IBS Ops working group, and they have been actually helping us quite a bit. From the IBS Ops working group, we had another small subset, and that is the advisory group, or we used to call them pilot airlines, who volunteered to actually work much closer with us and support us through this initiative. And we have been working with them from last year, wherein we had monthly calls, we have a couple of face-to-face meetings, and we usually brainstorm at what are the various changes in rules or changes in validations that we can introduce to actually reduce unnecessary rejections. So the 7 carriers who from the IBS Ops working group who actually work with us are American Airlines, and we have Priscilla from there who helps us. We have Gavin from Air New Zealand. We have Harry from Delta. Harry is also the chairman of the IBS Ops working group. We have Suresh and Shankar from Emirates, Sachin from Etihad, Gunter from Lufthansa, and Felicity from South African who support us. And of course, we have, along with me, we also have a team from Montreal who actually help us, who actually support this initiative. So we have Adina Minculescu. She's the head of e-invoicing, and you might know her as the head of SIS. Prior to IATA, she was previously a revenue accounting manager for Tarom. We have Altuk Medani, Senior Manager Pay Account Standards. He also looks after the IBS Ops working group. Prior to joining IATA, he was Vice President in Turkish Airlines. We have Andres Mondragon. He is part of the SIS team and manages all the data, looking after the databases, along with his regular role as SIS Help Desk. We have Vivek Pandit, again, another SIS operations and SIS help desk guy, but with a lot of interline background, having worked with an airline before. He's more of our interline SME. And we have Daniela Charkova, SIS operations, looks after all the reports, does all these analysis and slides, and is the person who creates all the statistics and analyzes trends. Why IATA was very crucial in this role was that we are not allowed to share any of the data or any of the airlines data with the working group. We can only share summarized data. So it's not that when we report to the working groups, we actually say this airline is doing badly or not. We will have to actually summarize certain things, remove airline names or codes which appear in any reports, share global stuff which says like the top 20 airlines represent so much volume of rejections. We have 5 carriers who are actually a problem because they are actually doing wrong billings, but it will never be that we will actually share the names of individual airlines with the working groups. So this is the role done by this team over here, who actually work through all the data and produce the reports. Moving forward, we move to our next section is progress, and what we would like to talk about is from the last 3 years of this initiative, how are we doing? So if we look at prime billings, we have prime billings of from 2015 to 2018 on the screen, and you can see that it's been a continuous increase. So we have moved up from 125 million to around 157 million over the last 3 years, and it's a 26% increase. Um, However, the good news is at least the rejections have not gone up exactly how we have got prime billings. So we actually had a decrease in 2016 and 2017. It was going down. In 2018, it went a little bit up, but at least it's not higher than the 2050 values, and still much lower than the increase in prime billings. So comparatively, we've been good. One thing to note is these statistics exclude sampling. So because sampling follows a different methodology, and hence we have not included here. Also, this excludes ACH to ACH billings, because mainly the ACH part is looked after the ACH team. However, another thing to mention over here is that ACH too monitors their trends. They have been very supportive of our initiative to reduce rejections, not just for the part under the IBS Ops working group, but also the ones under ACH. And they have always invited us to speak at their meetings. In fact, we will be speaking at the ACH meet between the 23rd to 25th April in San Antonio. And if you would like to actually see how you are doing, if you're an ACH carrier, and how you're doing, and what are the rejection trends for ACH, then please attend the sessions at the ACH meet in April. It will be really interesting. So how do we measure progress? So we measure the percentage decrease in the rejection rate in comparison to the year we have started. And the base year was 2015 December. What was the rejection rate at that year? And today, what is the rejection rate? And we compare that, and we realize whether we are doing good or bad. So the rejection rate computation is basically we take the on a monthly basis the sum of rejections of all three stages. So it's not just stage 1 or stage 2. We take the sum of all three for the past 12 months and divide it by the sum of prime billings for the past 12 months. And in 200, we get the rejection ratio. The good part of this formula is that by taking 12 months, we cover any increase or decrease in volumes due to seasonality. And this at least gives us a normal trend and not sharp spikes, because when we initially ran different scenarios for trying to arrive at a way to measure, we realized that if we take 6 months or 3 months average, it was actually showing sharp spikes because of seasonality. The one reason why we not only look at the count of rejections but also include the prime billings is specifically to handle the increase or decrease in volumes. For example, a decrease in prime billing, which leads to a decrease in rejections, does not necessarily mean that we are doing well. Similarly, an increase in prime billings and an increase in rejections does not necessarily mean we are doing badly, because as long as we don't increase in the same ratio how prime billings are increasing, we are actually cutting down on the rejection ratio. So let's look at some of the numbers and what we have achieved. So based on 2015, and if we look today at 2018, we have actually, when we ended 2018, we ended it with a 20.73% decrease. We did pretty well with the increase of prime billings, decrease of rejections. We have had a steady reduction. We broke down our targets over 5 years, and in 2016 and 2017, the reduction was steady, and we easily achieved what we wanted to achieve by end of 2017. In 2018, we ran into multiple issues, and actually, it was in the Jan of 2018 we really saw some months which started to actually increase, where we had more rejections, and some months we actually did not move much. But luckily, towards the end, we started again doing much better, and we nearly reached the 21%. We finished to 20.73. So near there, but one thing it was like a wake up call for us that we have to always be on track. Otherwise, we can easily get really bad. Uh, Small things like bad data, it could be probably an change in rules which actually causes wrong interpretation, or maybe a new carrier who suddenly joins interlining can totally affect this project, because the moment they come in and they start issuing a lot of or wrong billings or rejections, it definitely affects our project. Again, it is not something which we can achieve just by a few airlines. Uh, it We have to get everyone involved, because even one or two airlines who are doing wrong billings will affect all the other airlines who do things correctly. So we need to really work together, get our partners involved, so that we can ensure that rejections continues to decrease. Now I'm just going to go into the various analysis into the different stages of billing. So we have three stages of rejection. We have the first, second, and third stage. Basically, the first stage is the number of prime billings that are rejected the first time, and the average on this screen is calculated based on the number of first stage rejections divided by the number of prime billings. So we see when we started off in December 2015, we had 7.17%. And we see in December 2018, we have dropped down to 5.28. So we have been doing pretty well. And as an industry, we can say that we are sending much better quality of billings, what we are doing now, than what we did at 3 years before. So there's been a lot of change in each of your processes. You'll have included much more checks. You'll are aware of different rules, and you're following everything. So it has been really good. And this was something that we as a team really focused on, was stage one, because stage one formed 73% of all rejections. Stage two and stage three made up for the balance 27%. And we felt that if our primary focus is on first stage, and if we could lower first stage, we automatically lower the second and third stage. So the first 2 years, we actually spent a lot of time finding out how we can reduce first stage rejections, what are the causes of this, what is the awareness we need to do, and hopefully things would actually work. And it did not. We actually were wrong about second and third stage, because if you see the second stage, in December 2015, we were at 27.76, and we ended December 18 at 33.05. So there has been a constant increase in second and third, second stage and rejections, and third stage. Now, second stage is again the number of first stage rejections that actually get re-rejected into the second stage. So if you raise a first stage rejection, you would assume that you're going to get, at today's rate, around 33% of that coming back. Similar if we go to the third stage rejections. And this is another alarming fact, because this moved up from nearly 36% to around 46%. So this is really something which we have been further trying to analyze, because we want to know, why do second and third stage rejections actually take more time? These are the places where we actually put some of our best auditors or people to actually look at and answer this, because it's not something where you can just take someone new and start working on Interline. You actually have to train them and stuff. And this is one place where our costs add up if we do not reduce it. So one of the things which we are actually trying to get more information is why do these actually carry on. This is again an analysis per stage, but the count of rejections, and again it gives you a split per year. So if you could see the difference in the first stage, that is the one below, we have between 2015 to 2018 a 7% decrease. A lot of it came right in the start when 2016, where we could actually uh, uh, talk to the ones who are doing badly and get them to improve. Second stage and third stage shows a continuous increase. So if you see second stage, it went down a bit in 2017, but again in 2018 it has gone higher. And third stage shows a gradual increase year on year. So these are the two items where in 2019 we actually want to focus much more on and figure out ways of reducing items over here. Let's look at the main reasons for rejection. So we have the reason codes over there, and these are the sys reason codes. And if you look at your first stage, tax is the most rejected item. So we have around 41% of all rejections are for tax. The second place is fair, and then the third place is a combination of fair and tax. So fair is a little bit close, or 37%. So our main items are tax and fair, which get rejected. However, if you look at the split uh, from first to second stage, you will realize that tax from first stage goes down during the second and third stage. From 41%, only 29% is there in second stage. So what we can actually get from this data is that you have a lot of wrong prime billings in tax, which actually get accepted at the first stage. So those are some places where we plan to again further analyze and see what we can improve. However, the interesting part is the second stage is, sorry, fair reclaim, which is 37%. And you can see that it jumps up to 50% in the second and third stage. So we see most of these disputes happening in second and third stage are actually for fair rejection. So it could be probably an SPA dispute, or probably involuntaries on an understanding of fares for involuntaries, which is actually causing it. We do have a few others, UATP reclaim, which is 3%, and this is something which we are trying to work on, wherein we have a paper which failed in 2018, but we hope that we are planning to put it back in 2019, where we can actually convince carriers to actually apply the UATP discount at the prime billing rather than wait for a rejection for it. Now moving to value of rejections. Currently in the project, we do not look at, we do not compute the value of rejections as part of the target. However, just to give you a brief value on a brief summary on the rejection value. If you look from 2015 to 2018, we had a big drop. So in 2015, we had around $1.7 billion in rejections. Now in 2018, in a year, we have around 1.2 billion. The big drop is, of course, also due to the phase out of FIMS. We used to have FIMS which were being billed on sector fares, and then naturally your first stage rejection was a big value where you would actually put the correct fares and reject back. But still, it's a steady drop. And when we want to compute the average rejection, and what is the average value per rejection, so what we did was we took the total value divided by the total count of rejections, and we arrived at a value per rejection. So you can see that in 2015 we had an average value of $140, which has actually dropped, and in 2018 we are now at around $102. So we have been having a reduction in the value too, and we hope that we can further reduce the values being continuously in dispute. This moves us to our next topic on what did we do to achieve this reduction. So we decided to focus on mainly three pillars. The three pillars being: one, awareness; two, collaboration; three, rules and validation. So awareness was one of the things which we actually focused on a lot in the first 2 years, because we knew this was where we could actually get quicker results. Um, the first thing was we had to get the industry aware that we had a problem. We ensured that we presented at the IBS Ops general meeting, the CIS general meeting, and of course the ACH meet, when we could make people more and more aware of the number of rejections in the industry. To add to this, we also sent a number of personalized reports to airlines. And what we did in those reports was we highlighted whether the airline is actually doing higher or lower than the industry trend. And part of these personalized reports was also how many RMs they were accepting, and places where we felt they could have improved. We also tried to highlight the top 5 carriers that they had issues with, because some of the small to medium carriers actually, by only fixing their top 5 carriers, they would actually handle maybe 70 to 80% of their interline volume. So that was a big plus point. And also, one thing which we recommended was that they talk to their partners, and this helped to actually spread the initiative as airlines started reaching out to their partners and fixing the issues. So we were getting contacted by some airlines who never got the report, saying that my partner contacted me and said that you gave them a report, how about me getting a report? So it was like a domino effect, which actually really did well for this initiative. We had conference calls with airlines, not only to talk about improving rejections, but also to find out more about their success stories and items which actually improved. The second pillar was collaboration, and that's where we actually worked with IBS Ops working group and the advisory group, and we came out with best practices and changes to rules that could improve interline billings. We hope to continue in the next 2 years, again, this collaboration, because from last year, we realized that the number of papers which came out of this collaboration was really good. And not only do we want to stop at rejections, but also continue working on correspondences and see how we can actually reduce correspondence in the industry too. The third pillar was tightening rules and validations to ensure that we stop incorrect billings. And over here, the IBS Ops working group played a key role in this part. They spent a lot of time in 2018 actually simplifying the rules. Wherever things needed a change, they put up papers, and it was a very busy year for them. There are a lot of paragraphs which they clarified or had a change in the rules in the RAM, and this will actually see a lot of benefit in the coming years, where we expect that these clarification of rules will actually reduce the incorrect interpretations. They continue to work hard in 2019. They are working on a few more proposals, and we look forward to you supporting these papers, because again, as you know, these papers are put forward, they go for a vote, and only based on the voting would they pass. So we ask you to again support IBS Ops in the changes that they are putting forward for the industry. And just to give an example of a change introduced, this was a change which was actually voted in 2017 and was started in 2018. So this is an optional source code for an airline, where the billing airline can indicate whether the coupon is an involuntary rerouted coupon or not. So currently, if you look at the stats, this went live in May 2018, and till December 20 2018, we had around 50 airlines who started using this. While some of the airlines who we had spoken to mentioned that this is just an indicator and may not help in reducing rejections, what we wanted to highlight over here is that this plays another key role. So just by having this indicator in the system, we actually know the number of involuntary coupons being billed. Based on this, we can again identify how many of these coupons get rejected, and again, what are the reasons for rejection? Are the main reasons tax? Are the main reasons fare? Also, by looking at all the airlines sending it, we know if the problem is either global or is it specific to only a few airlines. And if we know it's a global thing, we can actually push for global solutions. So this is something which we hope that you take back. If you are not using the source code, what we want you to do is start making these changes in your system. There is a lot of benefit which you will get out of it, because it will help you in the long run to actually pinpoint what rejections you are getting for involuntary. If you remember my earlier slide, we spoke about prime billings having around 5.28% rejections, right? So today, for all the prime billings billed, we have rejections of 5.28%. However, when we analyze the source code 31, the prime billings of source code 31 for these 50 airlines, we found an average rejection percentage of 25%, which is actually 5 times more than your average prime rejection. So we know that there's actually a lot of rejections happening because of involuntary, and now we can actually further go more into details where it is happening. But we need much more airlines using this data, because based on 50 airlines, we can come to some sort of analysis, but having more carriers, we know how we can get a much clearer picture of where we stand. Of course, this data is only from May to December, but we hope that by June or July this year, we'll have a clearer picture of a year's worth of data and how many of the rejections are actually happening. So in 2018, we had a number of papers that passed, and I'm only going to talk about some of the papers which passed, which have changes in SIS. We know a lot of rule changes also passed, but I won't be touching upon that. The first one is the YQYR, which is an optional validation, and this will help to stop unnecessary prime billings for airlines, which you don't have concurrence with. Since YQYR is a concurrence-based tax, we need to ensure that carriers who don't have concurrences with other airlines don't get unnecessary bill. So in May 2018, you will probably, in May 2019, this is where you can probably go and put in a validation against certain airlines if you don't have concurrence with them. Again, it's optional. If you don't put it, nothing is going to be validated. Another report which is going to be available in SIS is these personalized reports which we used to give a few airlines. One thing we realized from the personalized reports, and the background is the personalized reports is done manually by the SIS team. These personalized reports were not reaching everyone, because since they are manual, it took a lot of effort to create it for each and every airline. But now we have got these reports in SIS, and from May onwards, every airline can actually go click on it and see how do they stand against not just their trend line, but they can also see the trend line of the industry, and they can check whether they are doing actually better than the industry or worse off than the industry. It will also give you the same things which we currently give in the personalized reports. It will give you your top 5 airlines who are rejecting you for coupons billed. They also give you the top 5 airlines for who you reject for coupons that you have received. So it's an interesting report. We would like you to probably look at this once it is released. We have the correspondence aging report. one thing which came out from the advisory group of airlines was that we do have a lot of correspondences going into multiple stages, and it would be good if a new report which highlighted cases which go over seven iterations. So this you can set up whether you're a manager or you're a supervisor, and you don't want to see the normal report of the normal open correspondences, and you only want to see these are the cases of the ones which are actually going over a certain stage. You can set yourself as a recipient of this report, and you will get a report on a monthly basis. It also gives you some other correspondence data, for example, where let's say you have got an authority and you have not yet raised a billing memo, or where the correspondences have expired and you have not raised a billing memo. So it's a lot of value add, and we hope that you start using this. We got breakdown mandatory for 5Z coupons, and we saw there was a misuse, so we added that. But another interesting addition was the 7 new reason codes, and this is going to make rejection reasons most indicative. For example, today, let's say you have only fair reclaim. You have, anytime you want to dispute a fair charge, you just put 1B, fair reclaim. With this introduction, we have added some new reason codes. So reason codes like SPA applicable, or you might have SPA not applicable. You could put involuntary rerouting fair difference, and this will actually help us to speed up of actually pinpoint where are you actually having issues. So is it an SPA which is having an issue? Is it something to do with YQ wire tax? And is it something to do with involuntaries? Now, again, you can only, it's an optional thing, but again, we ask you to make these changes in your revenue accounting systems, because in the long run, again, this is going to be beneficial. And what we are going to do is again enhance the PAX reports or something, and you will be able to see how good or bad you're doing. So if you don't use this data, the reports are not going to be of much use to you. And the last one I just want to talk about is the hard validation of duplicate billings. In this one, while both the papers passed, we will have the only for rejections, we are going to validate in May 2019. The validation for prime billings, duplicate prime billings, has been postponed by the SIS steering group. They would like to do a few more analysis and then decide to prioritize on it. But otherwise, all the other items which passed, the SIS steering group has taken that into account. Another point to mention here about the SIS steering group, again, it's the steering group of airlines who look after SIS, and they have been really helpful in supporting this initiative. Whenever we have gone to them with some of the changes that we need prioritized, or papers that have passed and need to be put into the next SIS release, they have really supported us in that decision. We have also worked on a best practices document. So the best practices was done with the advisory group and created. It will be posted on our website. Now, you may question, why do we need best practices? And we already know that you already have best practices and you know what you need to do. But basically, when we actually spoke to many airlines, we were very surprised. There are many things which actually cause issues, and while people feel it is normal, they tend to forget about such things. One of the items which we faced was in Jan 2018, when there was a new airline to Interlining, and they knew they had to send the invoices and coupons to SIS, but they were not sure how to prorate or what taxes to bill, and they sent a lot of wrong billings, which resulted in rejections. Again, since they could not understand, they sent those rejections back, and this carried on for 2 to 3 months until we got in touch with them and asked them to sort it out with their interline partner. So we felt that we need to have best practices. One is to help new airlines moving into interlining. So even if you're an airline who always does interlining, when you get into a new SPA or agreement with a new interlining airline, it will be good to share with them these best practices, saying that these are something which are recommended that you do so that we don't have many disputes. We also do one of the other items is monitoring incoming and outgoing billings and a quality control. And this was actually the items we pushed in 2016, where we highlighted how easy it is to just use a few reports and monitor on a monthly basis or weekly basis your incoming or outgoing billings. You immediately see a spike in a certain carrier, and you know that probably there's something wrong there. You talk to your partner or you talk to your commercial and fix it, rather than waiting to actually handle all these rejections or correspondence 6 to 8 months down the line. Um, it also gives some best practices when to update your SPAs, tax, other masters, because we do see a lot of rejections because SPAs are received late and other items. Sorry. Uh, Also a checklist, and this is something which we are always scared of, is when an airline moves to a new revenue accounting system. We see a lot of wrong billings happening during that time, a lot of duplicate billings which happen that time, and this is something which we hope that the checklists that we prepare are useful for airlines to use when they are going through a new system. So what have we accomplished so far? Um, we have nearly at 21%. We hope to reach 32% in the next 2 years. This year we hope to finish at 27%. We got in a best practices document. We have introduced new sys enhancements, and with the help of IBS Ops, we have stronger RAM rules. We hope to continue this way too, but with a more focused role on second and third stage rejections as well as correspondences. Some points which we hope you can do and get back to us. The cost. This is one thing which we have been working hard at, is trying to get a cost per rejection and arrive at a global cost per industry. So one is, are you all aware of what is the cost of a rejection? And it's not just the sys cost or the cost of what do you say, of a system. It's also the people's cost, which actually have you have to have a qualified person who actually does rejections and correspondences. You have to have someone to as a backup. You need someone to supervise. It adds up when you actually go through this. So because if you don't really know what is your cost, you will not really know how expensive or how much money you're spending on rejections. So try and do this and arrive at a cost. If you're willing to share it with us, we have 13 airlines who have actually shared it with IATA. We as IATA would not share this with anyone, but it gives us an average across airlines, and it helps us to build a global cost and talk. It also helps us to sell this initiative about how much money you can save if you cut down on the rejections. So think about this and try and get this implemented. What else can you do? So we would like you to get involved in this initiative. We want you to be part of the solution and part of improving the incorrect billings. We want you to set internal targets, because if you do not set internal targets, there's no way of knowing whether you're improving or you're actually just going day to day. And very important is monitor your rejection rate, because it is a very simple indicator to tell you whether something's going wrong and you can fix it. So you can either monitor it on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, but anything more than that, you'll have piles of rejections to clear up if you're not monitoring it. Something we just discussed was calculate your cost per rejection, because again, uh, that's where you need to know how much the cost is before you actually start. Thing is, nominate a champion. Now it's always good to have someone in your team who actually does this. We know in our day-to-day work, you as a supervisor or a manager, you have so many other tasks, so it's not necessary that you need to do it, but maybe someone in your team who can actually monitor how well you are doing. They can get in touch with us. We don't mind helping them in case there's some things we need to know about, things we can improve on, or validations. It will be good for them and as well as for us. Um, Share with us your best practices, because you all are the guys who are actually doing things day in, day out. And also share with us your success stories. For example, you had a lot of rejections with another carrier. How did you solve it? Uh, mm, these learnings can actually go back to our best practices document and will help other airlines who are probably joining new, or who are doing things day in, day out, and help them to improve. And the last one sounds very simple, is contact your partners, but you'll be surprised that not many people actually do it. Um, Especially at times, the first time you're actually contacting your partner is when you have a pile of correspondences. So whenever you have something which you notice is incorrect, what we would like you is pick up the phone, send an email to your partner, or check it with your commercial team if you know that an SPA sound is wrong, or there's something this. Because again, if it's not solved in the start, it always leads to tons and tons of rejections. So that's it from our side. We were very happy about talking to you about this. Um, we have a website, and when we share the slide, the link of the website will be embedded. We would like you to actually go there. We have prepared an annual report. So the annual report was actually very comprehensive. So it gives you details of not just 2018 versus 2015, but each and every year in terms of rejections, reasons, trends. It's summarized at a global level, so you can actually see it. We encourage you to go and look at it. From time to time, we put different reports over there. We also have the best practices document, which will be uploaded to the same site. So go there, and accordingly we can work together. So we have a few minutes for questions. If there are any, you can probably log the question. So one of the questions is the best practices document, and yes, it's going to be shared on the SIS website. The link will be shared after this. I mean, when we send out the deck, and you will be able to download the best practices document. So I have a question about the cost. Okay, and the question is that that's the last 2 years we have increased the SIS cost, and if you're going to be reducing rejections, um, the cost, our volumes are going to go down and the cost might go up. So what are we going to be doing about it? Well, just to talk about a little bit of volumes, we have multiple volumes. We have prime billings, we have rejections, we have billing memos, we have miscellaneous, cargo, etc. Rejections or passenger forms a small portion of it. It is significant, of course, but we have already increased the price of rejections. So even if we reduce the cost, it's not going to be so much of an impact, because again, we will never reduce rejections completely. There will always be some sort of rejections which are going to be happening. And another good thing is the SIS steering group actually reviews all this data twice a year. So rest assured, there are the airlines and the uh, other representatives of the SIS steering group who actually look at this and will ensure that these things are handled. So I don't think it's a worry about cost going to be increasing if we reduce rejections. I think there's a lot more savings we can get by internally. So uh, by reducing rejections internally and into people's costs, that will be a much more saving than just reducing 2 cents from a rejection cost. So I've got a query about can you provide stats on how many third stage rejections where correspondence is initiated? So actually, we were not looking at we could not handle that for some time, because correspondence followed a different timeline, wherein uh, after 2 months of them being closed by a billing memo, they used to be purged. However, as part of the monthly report, which is going to be available in SIS, we are also going to be tracking correspondences. So soon, from May 2019, we will be tracking that, and probably by December 2019, we will be able to say that so many correspondences are being issued against third stage. So we will be now able to go much more further with correspondences now that we are tracking it. I'm sorry, I'm just reading through some more questions. Is there a SIS comprehensive report coming where we could determine what kind of rejections, tax fare we are receiving? And that could show us right away if rejections are increasing. So yes, with this new report, you will be able to see whether what are the rejections you're getting and what are the reasons. So from May onwards, you would be easily, you can easily look at it. So another one was some airlines have auto rejects because and that causes a lot of rejections. Yes, we have got some of the feedback, but again, as part of the best practices, one of the items are there where we say that you need to even if you have auto rejects, there's some sort of quality check you have to do, and also look at the trends. Like suddenly if you're rejecting much more than you did, it is something you need to actually fix. I think there's a very important question. Is there an unintended cost of rejections in that airlines revenue management is receiving bad data if there are rejections? So yes, very important over here, because as you might be aware, many of the airline management systems actually get a feed from the revenue accounting systems. So if you're actually billing out incorrectly, you are actually passing on those wrong values to your airline revenue management system, and you're reporting that as your revenue, and that goes into your various MIS reports, and unknowingly um, it is all inflated, because in the end you're going to get rejections back. So I think that was a very good point put forward, that yes, it's an you don't really realize it, but it's a big cost because you're making wrong decisions on this. I have time for one more question, and okay, it's again on when this report is going to be ready. So the report is going to be in May P1. So around the 8th or 9th of May it's scheduled. I think the SIS team have sent out a bulletin on the release as the release notes, which actually gives you some more details about it. You can go through it and do let us know. Okay, in interest of time, we are going to be stopping the webinar here. I thank you, everyone. If I see a couple more questions, which what we are going to do is we will put it in the Q&As and send it to everyone, so that you know what are the other questions asked. But thank you, everyone, for your time. We look forward for your support, and have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to everybody. And as Kirk has mentioned, all the supporting documents will be provided to you, including the recording of this session. So if there's no further question, thank you so much for your time, and have a good day to everybody.